What's up guys, welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of the MKWii series. This is the first time in half a year that I'm recording one of these. Probably gonna take another half a year to actually upload it. Yeah, I have peak upload times on YouTube right now. Anyways, today as always we're going to play 16 completely randomized tracks from MKWii, which has almost 5,000 tracks by this point. And then I'll give all of these tracks a rating from 1 to 5 stars. And at the end of this video, I'm going to rank these 16 tracks from worst to best. And we're gonna start off this video with Rainbow Sweep. By the way, what's very nice is that there's actually an option that allows you to scroll a lot faster now. So yeah, I no longer take like 3 years to get to tracks. Yeah, I didn't mention this, but we're actually playing on the new MKWii update, version 2.0.1. And this track is looking not bad right now. What's very nice, by the way, we have author credits now, so we immediately know that this track is by Potato Man 44. And I completely forgot about the startup boost. Great job. So anyway, about the update. It is an absolutely massive one, and I actually made the trailer for it, which has reached over 30,000 views. That's honestly kind of nuts, considering the most viewed video on my channel has like 4,000, I think. I don't really keep track of that. Let's focus on the track now. It is looking pretty good, actually. I like it quite a lot. The gameplay here is really, really nicely done. Very good scale, and I like the little ramps that you can take off the side of the rainbow, I guess, similar to how it's done on Warriors Goldmine. That's always a good addition. It's a fairly short track, but that's not really too much of an issue because it's like not that short, I guess. Especially not when I'm bad at the game. That artificially makes this track longer. But yeah, if anyone watching this has not downloaded or played MKWii yet, I can just very highly recommend doing so. This pack literally has everything by this point, and they're still adding new features. So anyway, we're done with this track now, and I am gonna give it 4 stars. Definitely a very enjoyable layout. There were quite some good ramps here, and the track had a good scale. I don't really have any complaints about the gameplay. It just wasn't the most eventful track ever, and visually I wouldn't say it was quite the strongest as well. So it's definitely a contender for 5 stars, but doesn't quite reach it. In any case, that was a pretty good start to this video. Let's see if track number 2 is going to be a good follow-up to this. So our second track for this video is GCN Mario Circuit by Yoshi Dude 4. Okay, so I'm actually going to be able to show off another new feature right now. Okay, this literally looks like GCN Mario Circuit. I don't know why I'm surprised about that. Is this like the Mario Kart DS version that never made it to the actual game? In any case, let's talk about the new feature now that I mentioned earlier. For all retro tracks, you can enable an option to actually have their original music play. So we're actually hearing the GCN Mario Circuit music now, even though I'm having my music pack enabled. And yeah, this works for literally every single retro track. So for Mount Wario, you'll have the music from Mount Wario. And yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the Mario Kart DS version that never made it to the game. So that's pretty interesting. It's honestly just GCN Mario Circuit with less things to do. The track layout is like mostly the same, but there's just like no objects anywhere. The piranha plants aren't there, the chain chomps aren't there, the little sand hills that you can trick off aren't here. So it's just a much more simpler version of the track. And now that we're done with this, I'm also gonna give it 4 stars, since GCN Mario Circuit, simply put, is a relatively good bass track. Gameplay wise, it's definitely one of the most fun circuit tracks in the series, and this does keep most of the gameplay elements that made the original good. We're now moving on to this video's third track, which is going to be SM64 Rainbow Ride Route 2. I honestly have no idea how they're supposed to make SM64 Rainbow Ride playable in Mario Kart Wii, since it's a pretty trashy level, but I guess we'll see. Visually, it's pretty similar to the original Rainbow Ride. It definitely looks a bit more Mario Kart Wii, obviously. Like, these textures definitely aren't the same as in Mario 64. To me, it's looking like we're gonna drive over the rainbows a lot here, possibly for almost the entire track. Surprisingly, the scaling here is better than I initially expected. I thought this was either going to be really small scaled or really overscaled. Unfortunately, nothing is really trickable, even though there's some edges that definitely could be made trickable. Okay, we're supposed to go left. Route 1 is then probably going to the right, to like the big house where you can do carpetless. This track is 2 laps, which is probably a good choice since it doesn't seem to be the shortest track out there. Okay, is this gonna be a cannon? Okay, yeah, that's a cannon. This is probably about the best interpretation that you can do of this track. I just don't think Rainbow Ride offers much of a good layout for a Mario Kart track. I mean, it's not really a good layout for a 3D platformer either. It's definitely the worst level in SM64 by quite a bit. This track doesn't seem to have actual fall boundaries, so you're just falling for a while until you reach Y0. It would be cool if they could somehow implement the moving carpets, which probably would be quite hard to do, but I'm sure you could do some cool stuff with that. And maybe it would be cool to utilize the actual platforms more instead of just driving on the rainbows, you know? Because for example, right here, we got like a few platforms in the sky above us. They could have done some stuff with that, and maybe with the ship as well. I know this level is hard to make an actual track of. So yeah, in the end, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. For being Rainbow Ride, it plays fairly well. I do find it to be a bit of an issue that the rainbow is entirely untrickable, and I also just don't feel like there's a lot of variety in the track design. Visually though, it's definitely good enough. It looks better than the original level. But yeah, the gameplay feels a bit too basic. So far, this is a really similar start to the previous episode. And our 4th track is going to be Easy. That is a peak track name once again. That kind of caught me off guard. Okay, this certainly looks like something. I don't even know what to say. It actually looks more interesting than I thought though. I thought at first it was just gonna be that giant boost panel and nothing else. There actually is a bit of track here, so that's good. Let's see if it's actually easy. It looks like it's probably going to be. I guess there's like a few objects, but they're like not very dangerous right now. Okay, that is less easy though. You definitely need to take the right side of that cannon, otherwise it can really fuck you over. So let's try it again. Yeah, that's so much better. Interesting that the Goombas and everything else is green. There seems to be some slime on this track for whatever reason. I don't really know what this track's theme is supposed to be. Why are there Dutch flags? Oh, I guess it's because it's by Kevin, who is Dutch as far as I know. So I guess that makes sense. This track is really random. 5 laps, by the way. I'd definitely say this should be 3 laps. This is not short enough to be more than that. Because we're already almost 2 minutes in. Like, that's definitely long enough. So this track once again is going to get 3 stars. It's definitely more borderline to 4 stars, but I would say there are a few issues here. The cannon could be trickable, and the layout simply isn't the most innovative, to be honest. I do like the objects, so the track definitely has something, but yeah, the issues make this barely not reach 4 stars. Up next is our 5th track, which is going to be Unhinged Shade. Okay, so technically this is the first track in this entire series that I am credited on. In reality, I did almost nothing on this track. Yeah, this was made for the first EXTR competition, and 90% of it was made by Epic Crossover. The only thing that I did on this track was adding those images of everyone that's in my basement right now. You can see Simon Uwu over there. There's OGM. And yeah, this is a bit of a joke track. It didn't really do very well in the competition either. So it got a very simplistic layout with pretty simplistic visuals too, but I guess they're fine. They're watchable. It does have some decent ramps, and it's, I guess, scaled pretty nicely too. So I can't really complain about the gameplay at all. So yeah, in the end, I'm gonna give this 3 stars once again, since it's just a very basic track, but there's not technically anything wrong with it, to be honest. There's like nothing great about it, but there's also nothing bad about it. So yeah, this is not really what I expected to be my first track in the series, but I guess we'll see if one day we'll also get a track by me where I actually did something substantial. Alright, that was a pretty quick one. Up next, our 6th track is going to be SNES Ghost Valley 1 by Zilly. This actually isn't the first version of SNES Ghost Valley 1 that we're playing in this series. We also played the version by Spy Kid in, I believe, the very first episode of the first season. But now we're playing probably one of the best remakes of this track. Because I mean, look at these visuals. I'm loving the wood texture. This one's really high quality. Yeah, this is a track that I know and that I've played before. I featured this in one of my oldest ranking videos, where I basically put the, in my opinion, best version of each retro track and ranked them all. This one did place quite low on that ranking, but that's just because it's SNES Ghost Valley 1, and that track just has such a simplistic track design, which this version doesn't really change, but it does look very nice visually. And yeah, once again, we can hear that instead of my custom music, we actually got the SNES Ghost Valley 1 music in the background, or I guess the SNES Ghost Valley music. There's no difference between the different numbers. And yeah, this one is also going to get 3 stars. That's the 4th track in a row to get 3 stars. It's close to 4 stars, definitely, because it is a very good remake of SNES SNES Ghost Valley 1, but the track is just so simplistic. It's basically what you think of when you think of SNES tracks. It's a flat layout with not many turns, but then again, this is a great remake. It looks great visually, so it doesn't deserve anything lower than 3 stars. We are quickly moving towards the halfway point of this video, and we have not seen a 5-star track yet, just like last episode, but let's see if track 7 is going to say anything about that. So yeah, 7th track is SMB1 Frozen Highway. We are once again having a monkey ball track. We have had so many of these in the previous few episodes. Okay, so this is looking basically exactly like Aqua Off-Road, which was another monkey ball track. That one also had this sort of half-pipe shaped layout and a speed mod. So yeah, this is basically the same thing. And judging by that, this probably won't have the most eventful gameplay, since the whole track is basically just this. Aqua Off-Road actually had a bunch of trickable road, which was really fun. This one does not have that, but this one is much shorter and also 2 laps. You could definitely do 3 laps here. Okay, thank you, Blue. Oh, we actually didn't get it by it. I am actually not going to complain. We are losing to the CPUs. So for the 5th time in a row, this track is going to get 3 stars. We are having an absolute 3-star epidemic today. But I mean, this is pretty much just what most 3-star tracks are. It's super simplistic, but there's not technically anything bad about it. There's not much variety in the gameplay, but the track does have a good scale, which the speed mod works quite well for. And the track is pretty short, so it's quite painless. Next up, for the final track before the halfway point, we have Fiery Path. Okay, so this is looking pretty interesting actually. This is such a weird visual style. I like this like fog effect that they got going. The visual style is super unique, which I love. This has to be based on some franchise, right? What are these things? Are those some sort of Pokemon? Because I could swear I've played some Pokemon track in the past and it looked pretty similar to this. I love the fog effect here. Wait, when we drive through it, we actually get a little bit more fog. Wait, that's so cool. This track is sick actually. The gameplay slaps too so far. Okay, this section, maybe the sand is a little bit hard to see at times. It's not the biggest issue ever, but maybe it could be more distinctive from the road that we drive on. That goes in general for the off-road on this track. Besides that, this track is really good. Yeah, this is easily the best track of the video so far. Oh, these guys are Pokemon. I know that for a fact. They can also be found on Dragonite's Island, which is a Pokemon themed track. I don't know what they're called though. Dude, the CPUs are cracked on this track. Why are they all so fast? Okay, we won. Nice. And this track finally is going to get 5 stars. There's not really much debate about that. The gameplay here is really strong, and this track has such a cool visual style. The only issue with this track definitely is that the off-road and the road kind of blend in with each other at parts. It's definitely not the worst case of that happening, but especially towards the end of the track, it can get quite confusing. If that was fixed, this track would be near perfect. And now we're entering the second half of this video with FGKR Solid Lake. Okay, this looks pretty interesting. I like the wall texture actually. I have no idea what FGKR by the way is. From the layout, it seems to be probably some sort of racing game. The layout here is quite simple for sure. Reminds me a lot of Ancient Lake from Diddy Kong Racing. Okay, thank you for that. These CPUs, man. Visually, this track is pretty pleasant. I really like the background details. It would be super cool if you could actually go up those roads that you see in the background. They do seem to be right next to the track, so maybe it is possible to drive there. My guess, though, is that it'll probably count you out of bounds. And I don't actually think you can go there, because there's like this fence blocking it off. Okay, let's try to bomb snipe, maybe? Okay, that did not work at all. Except for Funky Kong, I guess. Sorry about that. So, we're now back to the 3-star tracks, officially. This track does look really, really good visually. It's just the gameplay, once again, that's just super simplistic on this track. This could have easily had potential with these visuals to be a 5-star track, but the gameplay, it's just too basic. There's like just a flat road with like no ramps, no objects, no boost panels. There's not technically anything bad about it, so it can't be anything lower than 3 stars. But unfortunately, it also cannot be anything higher here, despite the good visuals. By this point, I'm like 99% sure that we're breaking some sort of record with these 3-star tracks. I think the most that we've ever had is 7, and now we already have 6 in this episode, I believe. So we're getting close. Anyways, our next track, whether 3 stars or not, is going to be SNES Vanilla Lake 1 by Potato Man 44. Okay, I don't see too much yet. I guess we're seeing it from a distance. It looks pretty unique actually, because we got some walls around the track, and it looks like we're gonna have some more elevation as well, unlike the original. I like that we have a ramp right away. Okay, it does shoot you into the thick off-road though. That's maybe not the best choice. This track seems relatively small scaled. Once again, we're hearing the retro music from actual Vanilla Lake. Okay, so this ramp actually is entirely possible if you go with an angle. So overall, I'd say this definitely is one of the better versions of this track that I've played so far, simply because it's much more interesting than most other versions. It is only 3 laps, which is interesting, but I think that works well enough. In the end though, this is also going to get 3 stars, so I believe we have now tied the record. It's a good remake of SNES Vanilla Like 1, but it does remain relatively basic, despite the few ramps that they added. Visually, it's fine, I guess. Definitely looks a bit more rough than some other remakes, but I wouldn't say it looks bad. The first ramp could be improved, but it also kind of does make the track more interesting, and it is still easy enough to take for sure. But in the end, it's just another very simple track, so it definitely gets the 3 stars once again. This is getting kind of scary by this point. I really want the next track to change this absolute streak of 3-star tracks. I don't care if it's 1 star or anything, I just want the 3-star tracks to end. So track number 11 is Winter Paradise. This name sounds familiar. I might know this track. Okay, yeah, I do know this track. This is a former CTGP track, actually. It got removed quite a while ago, but I still just barely noticed this one being in the pack when I started playing. And honestly, this one was always really forgettable. Visually, this looks okay enough, I guess. You can definitely see, though, that this track is not the newest. I am liking this lake section because it's a bit more open world. That is a pretty interesting thing to do. I'd like to see more tracks implement these kinds of open world sections that allow you to explore freely. Maybe I'll make that myself at some point. The town section is definitely a bit weird because you can go around these left and right pathways, but I don't know why you would ever do that. But honestly, this track is a lot better than I remembered. I wouldn't say the removal was a bad choice because CTGP simply does have much better tracks than this, but this track is surprisingly nice still, even playing it years later. The final ramp could be better because it can easily put you in the off-road. But anyway, this track is gonna get 4 stars. Surprisingly, it's quite close to getting 5 stars. Just wouldn't say the gameplay is quite interesting enough for that. Visually, it's pretty nice, and overall, it was a pleasant surprise that this track actually held up over the years. Next in line, track number 12 for this video is going to be Koopa Beach 4. Okay, so this does not seem to be SNES Koopa Beach 4, it's just Koopa Beach 4. But still, I guess we'll see if this is maybe based on the SNES tracks. It's definitely looking like it, yeah. Especially because in the track selection, these started at Koopa Beach 3, so right after where the SNES tracks end, I guess. So it's actually quite interesting that we have tracks based on SNES tracks that have completely different layouts, but very similar themes. Definitely a unique concept that I feel like could be attempted more often. I'm liking the fact that the water here isn't off-road. This track is definitely a lot more interesting than the first 2 Koopa Beach tracks from the original Super Mario Kart. It definitely is still more on the simplistic side though, can't lie about that. Okay, that water collision is unsurprisingly a little bit jank. That kind of stuff is relatively hard to fix. And yeah, unfortunately, we are now back to the 3-star tracks once again. This is the 8th one now, I think, so we do have a new record, I'm pretty sure. But once again, this falls right into the typical 3-star track type. A pretty simplistic layout, also pretty simplistic visuals, but in this case, it makes sense that they are simplistic. I do gotta praise this idea though. This is a very nice rendition of the SNES Koopa Beach style. It's definitely a lot better than the original SNES tracks. Okay, so we're entering our last 4 tracks now. So track number 13 is going to be Mushroom Village. Ooh, this is the 2nd ever time that we're playing a Mario Kart Wii competition hub track. And this is a very good one at that. This one is by Bits, obviously, as we can see in the bottom. It was made for the 2nd MRFI competition, which is basically my own competition format. And I mean, you can probably tell already that this track has a lot of quality. I mean, just look at the visuals. They're so cool. This is such a good visual style. This is like the first time, actually, that Bits made a really good track. The gameplay is good too. Cannot really complain about it. There are a lot of good design choices here, like this mushroom section. The fog is kind of crazy at parts, but that's just Mushroom Gorge's fault. That's why I almost never put my tracks on Mushroom Gorge. The fog is just so annoying most of the time. I don't really like it. At some sections you can barely even see. Here it's not that much of an issue, but for example on the Gaming Brams version of Sky Garden, some sections were really hard to actually see. In any case, this track is easily getting 5 stars. Just has great gameplay, great visuals, a very nice theme. I like the way that the mushrooms are modeled in particular. These are definitely some of the best looking mushrooms that I've seen on any track. I like how colorful they are. 5-star. And yeah, there's also some pretty cool strats here and there. This track maybe could benefit from some more objects, I feel like. That's definitely what this track lacks the most. But besides that, there really isn't anything to complain, so this is a pretty obvious 5-star track. Okay, then our third to last track is going to be Canyon Road. Oh, I actually forgot this track was by that author. To be fair, this is definitely one of their more forgettable tracks, but it's a fairly nice one, I'd say. This track definitely has some very interesting texturing though. I don't even know how these types of visual bugs happen, to be honest. Like, I would not be able to replicate that stuff. And it gets quite a bit more extreme later along. I've played this track plenty of times. The layout here is quite strong, in my opinion. This has lots of great ramps, but here the visual bugs really start to kick in. They actually looked a bit different when I played the track in the past, so that's weird. I love how the boost panels are going backwards. I can't laugh about it too much though, because I recently made Sunshine Paradise. Sunshine Paradise has the fountain animation going backwards because I really rushed the track. I really cannot complain too much. Okay, that was a crazy KCL bug. I don't know if I've ever gotten that one. Okay, wow, we just got it again. I don't remember that happening on this track, but I guess it's been a while since I last played this. So yeah, regardless on my opinion of the author of this track, I am going to give this 4 stars. This one just has pretty good gameplay overall. There are a lot of great layout choices spread throughout the entire track. Some sections could have more variety, of course. There are some relatively long straightaways, but most of them do have boost panels, which kind of makes up for it a little bit. Visually, not the greatest, but not bad either. So yeah, this was actually a pretty fun track to come back to. We only have 2 tracks remaining now, and we've only had 2 5-star tracks so far, which, if that stays that way, would be the tied lowest number of 5-star tracks of all time. But that can still change, so let's see if track number 15 is going to contribute to that. And that track is Colorful Lake. Okay, this looks like a lake for sure. Not a super colorful one though. The colors seem to be more in the mountains in the background, I guess. So that is kind of clickbait. Also, this is like the 3rd Potato Man track in this video. Like, what the fuck? Have we ever had 3 tracks by the same author in one video? I don't think so, right? That's a new record. Ooh, this is off to a great start gameplay-wise. I'm loving this already. This is so fast-paced and has such a great scale, but some turns are a bit bumpy. It's not terribly bumpy though, so I can look past it. It's 5 laps. That's a good choice here because 1 lap is only 20 seconds. So overall, this track is gonna have a good length. Potato Man is honestly such an underrated author. Gameplay-wise, this reminds me quite a bit of like Secluded Island. So this one's honestly kind of hard to rate. It's definitely a borderline track between 4 and 5 stars. And I think I'll give it 5 stars, just barely. Sure, it's more on the simplistic side, and that one turn is quite bumpy, but the rest of the track is honestly just so fun. This is just the definition of a short and sweet track, you know? It is fast-paced through the roof. There are some great ramps everywhere. The scaling is awesome. It's just such a fun track. I really cannot say more about it. The visual style is cool as well. I think that's enough for 5 stars, to be honest. And now it's time for this video's very last track, which is going to be SHR Unused Bonus Level. So I think that's a track from Simpsons Hit and Run, which I've played one of in the past in the series. Yeah, the visual style here is basically the same already. There's not very much of a difference to the one that I played in the past, which I think was level 1 bonus, right? And this track seems to be a bit of a circle. Okay, the off-road is really bumpy. Don't know what happened there. And also the off-road starts earlier than I think. I would think that the off-road starts at the sand, but it actually does at this grass, I guess, which is quite a bit more difficult to see. It's not that much of an issue though. For the most part, this track is just really simplistic and short. Just like, honestly, quite a few tracks that we've played today. Well, we're already done. So that's it for our last track. And this one, guess what, is gonna get 3 stars. We actually didn't have a single track getting less than 3 stars in this episode. That's actually kind of amazing. But yeah, once again, this is the typical 3-star track. Super simplistic layout. Good visuals, I guess, but not really much going on here. No objects, no shortcuts. I guess there were a few ramps in the off-road, which makes this a bit more interesting. The track was also a bit bumpy though, so it lands right in the middle. Alright then, now that we've played all 16 tracks from this episode, it's time to rank all of them as always. So we had no 1-star tracks and incredibly also no 2-star tracks in this video. That is very rare. In turn though, we had an absolutely record-breaking 9 3-star tracks, which is just insane. So at number 16 we have SMB1 Frozen Highway. At number 15 we have SHR Unused Bonus Level. At number 14 we have Unhinged Shade. At number 13 we have SM64 Rainbow Ride Route 2. At number 12 we have Easy. At number 11 we have FGKR Solid Lake. At number 10 we have Koopa Beach 4. At number 9 we have SNES Vanilla Lake 1 by Potato Man 44. And at number 8 we have SNES Ghost Valley 1 by Zilly. Up next, 4 tracks received a 4-star rating. So at number 7 we have GCN Mario Circuit by Yoshi Dude 4. At number 6 we have Canyon Road. At number 5 we have Rainbow Sweep. And at number 4 we have Winter Paradise. Last but not least, 3 tracks have received a 5-star rating, just like last episode. So at number 3 we have Colorful Lake. At number 2 we have Fiery Path. And at the number 1 spot for the best track of this video we have Mushroom Village. Yeah, it was honestly pretty hard to pick the first place between Mushroom Village and Fiery Path. Both tracks had honestly very different qualities between them. In the end, Mushroom Village just barely got the edge, but both tracks are incredibly good. And yeah, even though this might have not been the most 5 and 4-star heavy track selection, I did still enjoy it by quite a bit. Most of the 3-star tracks definitely were borderline to 4 stars, and a lot of them actually look quite good visually. So in general, I'd say this episode was not bad at all. And honestly, the average rating that this episode got tells the same story. It actually got the same exact average rating as the previous episode. That one had way more 4-star tracks, but in turn also had some 2-star tracks. So yeah, it's an interesting result. And with that, I guess we're done for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys are having a very much wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next video. And as always, enjoy Wario on drugs.